with you is to understand how much activity and how much openness there was about the Union here in 1933.
And it was in the paper. They didn't have any openings. They did strike. You could tell that the mills were on strike, but they didn't have any too much to say about it.
Now, back in 1933, this was before the strike. Could you tell me about your husband? Well, he was your fiance then,
Mm-hmm.
right? Could you tell me about John's activity? Could you say, my I know about the organizing in the union because of my husband John.
Mm-hmm.
And then could you just tell me a little bit about how active they were here?
Well, I know he was active. He was at a meeting about every night. I didn't get to see him till late. He's always late coming from a meeting, and he talked it all a lot. And
now, what I'm going to ask you to help me do is, we don't know who he. If you could say, my husband. Well, he wasn't my husband back then. John Pollard.
Mm-hmm.
So we know. And if you could start there, and then just tell me, a little bit about his. Could you tell me why you think he was so, interested in helping people to organize here?
He was interested in making more money and having better conditions in the mill, and just the general things in general back then. They couldn't live off of what they made.
Okay. This is what we're sort of can we?
Local. I don't know the local he would belong to. Meets every Saturday at 10 a.m. Workers of American Local.
So what the big secret was it?
McPherson sees meet Sunday, Saturdays 11th Forest on United. It was on Forest Street where that building was. Annie West, I remember hers. Meets at 10. United Textile Workers of America, Local 1936. Lloyd E. Brader. C meets first and third Fridays at 9 p.m. Now, I don't know which, but all these different little places, different meals, or is it just one?
Yeah, from what I understand, each one of those local unions, each mill had its own local union.
Yeah.
So, was it a secret? Did they do this organizing the local unions in secret, or was it public?
It was public. They didn't have any patrolling or anything.
So, could you tell me this? Could you help me? Could you say if you believe this that that the organizing that they did was public. It was so public they put it in the city directory.
Yeah.
Could you say that? And then, because your husband, I believe, was president of Local 1881.
That's right.
Local 1881, and it's right there in that book.
Yeah, I read that 1881.
Okay, so could you do this? Could you tell me? Could you say? Yeah, they did their organizing in public. They did it out in the open. They even had it here in the city directory. And then could you read it off and then tell me where your husband's local?
His local was 1881. Let me see. On Forest Street's where they met. Here in Spartanburg, Spartan Mills. Am I doing it right?
You're doing great. Now, why did they? How is it that they could be listed in a city directory?
I don't know. I don't know whether all towns were like that or not, but Spartanburg wasn't. they were pretty broad-minded, most people were, about the conditions and all.
That's so interesting to me. Could you expand upon that? Could you tell me just a little bit about the fact that they did their organizing in the open? So much so that they put it in the book?
I can't explain it. I don't know why they did it. I was only 16, and I don't know.
Could we go over that list again?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to close it up.
That's okay. This would be wonderful. Could you say that for me?
What?
Well, could you tell me that? But I think you can explain it because you said that they did their organizing in public.
Oh, they did.
Could you say that and then you point to the book and tell me that?
Well, it's odd that they're in there, I guess. Because, it's a wonder they had a phone.
Well, I don't think that they're listing a phone. I think what they're doing is showing that there was that they met each week and they listed their meetings in there.
Yeah.
Could you look down and show me where your husband's? Could you look down that list and
I can see it's a union, local, United Textile Workers of America, local number 1881, Myrtle. McPherson meets Saturday at 11 a.m. at Forest Avenue. And what you want me to say now?
well, that's where they met.
That's where they met.
Now, and how active were they that they were meeting? Could you describe?
During that crisis, they met every night, just about.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Could you tell me? But do you know what your husband was doing as an organizer at that time?
Well, he just organized people for the union. The people that worked in the mill, some of them snubbed their nose at him, but he got enough, I think, to be recognized.
And what was the response of the town to all of this organizing?
It's like I said, I wasn't but 16. I didn't know nothing. It didn't make a bit of difference in the town, I wouldn't think.
Now, how did John? I know that something happened. How did John get so involved and dedicated to wanting to organize the union at that time?
Well, John worked in the mill. And he saw all the bad conditions, low pay, long hours, and he wanted to do something about it. So he started organizing the mill. And he finally got majority of workers, and a lot of them went on strike wanting to go back in, and they just had a mess of it. They arrested John one time because he was on a strike. And it was just a mess.
No, prior to the general textile strike, that's when they were listed there in that book.
Mm-hmm.
Could you describe to me a little bit what you remember of him going to meetings all the time, or?
I know I got tired of him talking it all the time, because I didn't really realize it. I thought everybody was the same, didn't make money and everything else. And I just wasn't too interested in it.
Well, I'll tell you, the thing that just struck me was just that seems like here in Spartanburg, they were able to organize so many different local unions,
Yeah.
and it seems like they did it
Yeah.
in plain sight.
Mm-hmm.
Could you tell me that much and maybe add a little bit of of why you think they were public here?
I really don't know. I wasn't too big of a. All I wanted them to come home early.
But he didn't, did he?
No, he didn't. He'd stay out till late. Sometimes he'd meet all night. I wish I could tell you more.
Well, that's okay. Now, do you remember when they called that general textile strike?
In what year?
Well, I know it was. Do you remember, how John and Spartanburg here, these locals here, responded in 1934 to that
I
strike?
imagine they were all excited about it and had a lot of meetings beforehand. And
You mentioned the flying squadron before.
yeah, that's when they had these trucks that went to mills that weren't organized. And I don't know what the purpose it was. Like they were threatening them or what.
Now, could you tell, was John president from the beginning of his local union?
Was he the president at
Yeah.
the beginning? I believe so. Well, when I first started dating him, he was a president. That was in 33.
And so he was president all the way through.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And which mill did he work for?
Spartan Mill.
Okay. Can we turn the camera on for a second? And that he was doing it in public.
Well,
Okay?
I'll see.
Okay. So, could you tell me who,
My fiance, John Pollard, and I went together when I was 16 and he was 21, I believe. And he was the president of the Textile Workers Union, which I didn't know too much about. At Spartan Mills, and Walter Montgomery was president. And of course, they had strikes, and like any other mill, I guess, that was organized. And
could you go in close? And they did it in public?
they did it in public out in the front of the mill.
And what about their organizing? Did people in the town know about it?
I would think so. Surely they do, but they would have in the paper when they have a strike and things like that.
Now, before the strike, when they were just plumb organizing, could you tell me that? I know that that they did their organizing out in front and people knew about it. They knew when the meetings were. They had their meetings all the time. Could you tell me that? I'm interested in the organizing before the strike.
Before the strike, they were organizing. They had meetings, and I don't know.
Well, okay. Now, what I'm so amazed at is that they listed it in the city directory at that time.
Well, I didn't even know it was listed in there then, but I'm surprised it was.
And does that look? And there's so many different, local unions that were listed there.
I know it. About 6 or 7, wasn't it?
You could even turn the page.
Oh, is it more? Yeah, it's 2 more. It was 10 or more, I guess.
So they would do. Were they frightened to be so public about it?
No, they didn't seem to be. I know John wasn't. My husband, I mean, my fiance at that time.
Could you say that John wasn't frightened to be public? 'Cause
He
believed-
wasn't frightened at all.
I cut your words off. Could you say, when you refer to your husband, if you could say John, that would be really helpful. If you could say,
My husband.
I'm not,
Just tell us in one sentence that John and his organizers weren't afraid.
John and his organizers were not afraid of the public knowing about it. And, of course, I guess there was a little friction between the ones that was for it and the ones that didn't want to belong to it, but I don't think they had any serious fights or anything.
do you think if
That was excellent. That was good.
Was it?
Yes,
Yes.
it was.
yes.
Good.
Should we wait till that? Did your husband? Excuse me.
Rolling.
Would you say? Could you tell me? Did your husband, fiance, John Pollard, did he believe in what he was doing?
He really believed in what he was doing.
Okay. Could you say it just like that, but say, John Pollard, my fiance, my husband, he really believed in what he was doing. Just put his name at the front of that sentence. I'm going to ask it to you again. I want you to answer it. You don't have to play with the book. You just have a face, right? Okay. I'm going to ask you that same question, but please put John Pollard's name at the top. Okay? So, did your husband, fiance John Pollard, did he really believe in what he was doing?
John Pollard really believed in the Union. That he lived it and slept it, and sometimes he didn't sleep it. He stayed up all night talking the Union, and had other meals that he would meet with.
And what was he trying to do here in Spartanburg? And could you say here in Spartanburg, and then help me with that? What was he trying to accomplish here in Spartanburg?
He was trying to accomplish, John, to win the Union over and get better pay and better living conditions and whatever else that they didn't do right. He wanted to reorganize the mill.
And did he help? Would you say the whole city? Did he help organize the other mills too? Did he help?
Oh,
organize
he
the
he
city?
did.
Okay. Could you say that he didn't just organize his mill alone? He was working in the
well,
city.
yeah, but
Could you
when
say
he
that?
when he became an organizer, that's when he went to all the mills and tried to organize, which he did. He organized a pile of them.
But before he became an organizer, he was just working here locally.
Yeah.
Could you talk about that? But I'm talking about before the strike.
He didn't have time to go to any other mills, I don't think. He was too interested in organizing Spartan mills.
And did they get organized there?
Yeah, they got organized.
Now, could you? So they were so they were so interested in the organization and felt like they were gonna. Do you think? I mean, why would they put it in the city directory?
I have no idea.
Why does anyone put something in the city directory? So everybody, I guess,
yeah,
will know about it.
Yeah.
So could you talk about that a little? Could you just tell me? I guess they believed in what they were doing so much, they put it in the book so everybody would know where to meet them and when to meet them. Could you say?
Well, they
Okay. So could you show me?
You could just say that you think that they believed so much in what they were doing that they put in the book for everyone to see.
Oh, he believed in so much he was doing, they put it in the directory so everybody could see it. And
Okay. Now I want you to. You just said that beautifully. Could you say that? Could you say that again? And believe you don't. And you're saying it fine. And they put it in the book so that people would continue to go to the meetings. And I guess because they expected to stay around for a long time. I reckon. I mean, I imagine that's why someone will put something in the city directory. So, could you say that one more time? I guess he and the others believed so
I
much.
guess they believed so much in the Union that they put it in the book so everyone could see it.
And they'd be able to go to the meeting.
And they'd know where to go to the meetings and where to call them.
And you'd never known that this was in the city directory before?
I'm dumb.
You just knew where the meetings were, so you didn't have to look in the book.
That's right.
You're not dumb. Okay, you know what? We're going to take the camera to the other. Okay, go like that. I'll tickle you.
Okay.
This is a Spartanburg directory in 1934, and they have listed union offices in the book, like United Workers of America Local 1705, United Textile Workers of America Local number 1835, United Textile Workers of America Local 1881. That was my husband's place. And United Textile Workers of America Local number 1882, Annie LOS. Secretary meets Saturdays 10 a.m. at 12 and a half East Main. And United Workers of America Local number 1936, Lord E. Brader. Secretary meets at first and third Fridays at 8 p.m. Where is it? United Textile Workers of America Local number 2119. United Textile Workers of America Local number 2145. United Waste Company. Oh, I have the wrong thing. I saw what's listed in the book.
Now, it says there's a C next to number 2145. What would that mean?
Where's that?
United Textile Workers of America Local number 2145C, Frank Dewberry.
Yeah, Frank Dewberry. Secretary meets Saturdays at 10 a.m.
Now, there's a C in front of Frank Dewberry's name.
Oh.
Do you know when?
I don't know what that means.
From what I understand from the book, if there was a C next to a listing, that meant that it was colored.
Oh, probably. Might be.
So that means that there would have been a colored local.
It might have been.
That's what C means, right?
Mm.
At that time?
I think so.
I think so, too. I mean, I think that, you see, if they have a C next to Van Diver Shafton, that meant that they were black people.
Mm-hmm.
So did you ever know anything about the union, about there being a black union here or a black local?
I don't remember. I don't think they hired too many Negroes.
It's a curious thing. I mean, that's another thing that
I remember a lot of places would have water fountains, and then white and then black, and the restrooms black and white and all of that. And they wouldn't let them eat in the same cafe. That was pretty bad.
Okay. Can we?
You want me to read all of it?
You know what? The one that you could read all the way through would be your husband's, and you could say, you know, the one and read it all the way through because where it meets Saturday and where it. 1881. There it is. Could you read that one all the way through, and maybe you could.
United Textile Workers of America, local number 1881. Myrtle McPherson's secretary meets Saturday 11 a.m. to 498. That's John Pollard, my husband's local.
Could you go through it with your finger? You don't have to read it. You could just sort of go like that and then turn the page.
I hadn't read that one.
Oh, you did. You did. You could just. We just wanted to take a picture of you turning the page.
Don't say nothing.
Well,
well, the United Textile Workers, local number 1881. You want me to say that again?
Sure.
We just basically.
Just point your finger down and turn the page. That would be great.
And read those. United Textile Workers of America, local number 2119. Is that all necessary? You want me to read these? The names and all?
You could just, you know what, if you just sort of just say United Textile Workers of America, local number 219, meets Saturday 10 a.m., Arkwright Mills. Just the thing that's so amazing to me is that that they keep on meeting. That it's so firm that they're going to meet each Saturday.
Mm-hmm. You can read that one again.
You could just read one more. That'd be great.
United Textile Workers of America, local number 2145. C. Frank Dewberry. C meets Saturdays 10 a.m. at 511 and a half South Liberty.
Great.
All right.
That was wonderful.
Now,
Okay.
this is a city directory, 1934 in Spartanburg, and in it, it tells all the the locals that the mills have here in town, and that shows that they must be pretty open about it.
So they didn't have anything to hide?
They must not have had anything to hide.
I'm going to move over here. So they didn't have anything to hide?
Oh, no. If they put it in the directory, you wouldn't think so.
Could you read some of them off for me?
Well, United Textile Workers of America, local number 1704, 5. John F. Lofter, secretary, meets Saturdays at 10 a.m. United Textile Workers of America, local number 1835, J.O. Bloom, C. secretary, meets every Saturday at 10 a.m. Drayton. United Textile Workers of America, local number 1881. McPherson secretary meets Saturday at 11 a.m. That was my husband's local.
Really?
United Textile Workers of America, local number 1882. Annie L. West secretary meets Saturdays at 10 a.m. United Textile Workers of America, local number 1936, Lloyd E. Brader. Secretary meets first and third Fridays at 8 p.m. You want me to turn the page?
Okay.
2119 Murphy Cooper, secretary, meets Saturday at 10 a.m. Arkwright Mills. United Textile Workers of America Local 2145. Frank Dewberry, Secretary, meets Saturdays at 10 a.m. on South Liberty. United Waste Company.
All right, you know what? They're just alphabetical. That's like something else. But the United Waste
Oh,
Company,
yeah,
that's not a union. They're
that-
garbage, and that we
yeah,
know
yeah.
that that's what it must mean because there's a C. So if you could say everywhere else in the book, a C means that that they were colored. So this means there was a colored local.
United Textile Workers of America Local number 2145, parentheses a C, which means colored. Frank Dewberry, Secretary, meets Saturdays at 10 a.m. at 511 and a half South Liberty at the United Waste Company. I guess.
So now in the city directory at that time, could you tell me what a C meant?
I would think it meant colored.
Could you say that? Could you say a C
The
meant?
C in Frank Dewberry, a C before Frank Dewberry's secretary meets. That C,
You can put the book down. You can look at me. Yeah.
the C it means colored, I would think.
That's how they used to mark things back in
Yeah,
those
I
days.
guess so.
Well, I'm just floored that they would list themselves in the book because that means that they meant to stay around.
Hmm. I like the textile union. The only thing I did not like it kept my husband away too long.
Now, what happened after the strike with your husband?
Well, after the strike, he had no job, so he got on with the WPA, making $15 a week, which was pretty good money back then, I guess. We could get 2 or 3 more Coca-Colas.
And then what happened? Then he was hired?
And Frank Gorman hired him because of his activity in the union as an organizer.
You could give me that book back. I'm going to ask her one more question and we're done.
I need
Oh,
a close-up of her tying.
yeah. No, you know what? We just needed to be able to edit. That's all. Okay. So if you could just look at the very last one and then turn the page, that would be great. Do it just like before when you were reading
With
it.
the finger.
You read it with your finger. You read it a little bit slowly. It was.
And then turn the page.
Right. I'll just like before. You. Yeah.
United Textile Workers of America Local number 1936, Lloyd E. Brader, Secretary, meets first and third Fridays at 8 p.m. on East Main Street, Route 4. What's that? United Textile Workers of America Local number 2119, Murphy Cooper, Secretary, meets Saturdays at 10 a.m. at Arkwright School. United Textile Workers of America Local 2145, Frank Dewberry, Secretary, meets Saturdays at 10 a.m. at South Liberty Street.
That's
Great.
That's good. Thanks.
Made him believe in the union.
Well, he had to quit school in the 7th grade. And he went to work in a bakery for about a year. I guess he's 13 or 14. Then he got a job over in Spartan Mills. And I guess that laboring all over there just didn't satisfy his wanting it to be better.
George Waldrop told me a little story about, I guess it was John's father who had some lung problems, brown lung.
And what?
Is this right? George Waldrop was telling me that, I guess it was your father-in-law. He worked in Spartan
He
Mills
worked at
too?
Spartan Mill and lost a finger.
And it was did he turn the camera for a second? Is this true?
Understand you?
You told me on the telephone when we spoke that the people here, you know, that they not only did they have their own local unions, but they seem to be connected. That all the local unions. I think your husband was real involved in that, wasn't he? Helping all the local unions be organized
I
too.
think so.
Could
That's where he's gone all the time.
yeah. Well, so it seems to me like your husband gave a great deal of himself to the community.
He did. He really did.
Too much, huh?
Well, I really appreciate what he did.
Well, I think everyone will appreciate what he did also. And
That what?
I think everyone will appreciate very much what he did also.
Oh, I'm sure they did.
So after the strike, he couldn't get his job back?
I don't know whether he just quit or they fired him. Seemed like he quit. I'm not sure.
But he couldn't get a job back at Spartan Mills?
He didn't get it back. He never did go back, rather.
Could you tell me that in one sentence? I mean, could you say, you know, after the strike, my husband didn't go back to work at Spartan Mills?
I could be wrong, but I don't think I am.
Okay.
After the strike, my husband didn't go back to the mill. And he got a job on the WPA. Oh, yeah.
And then, but he didn't lose his feeling about unionism.
Oh, no. He still had that textile union was his life. No, that's when Gorman hired him when he worked on the WPA. He jumped at the chance. We were sent to Richmond.
And did he do that for his life's work?
No, he stayed with the union until the head of the United Textile Worker, Valenti and Leonard, were president and vice president. They got the getting money out of the till, and doing personal things with it, and they had a big trial over that, and he quit. John did. He said it was getting too, wasn't like it ought to be run. And his last job was at the post office.
But he never. But did he? So how long did he stay in the Spartanburg area, trying to keep these local unions going? Do you know?
That was before my children were born. In 47, I forgot what he did. He had several jobs afterwards, but people found out who he was a lot of time wouldn't hire him because he's an organizer.
So did what happened to him? I mean, did the 1934 strike sort of stay with him all those years?
Oh yeah, it did. That whole background of textiles, he still talked it.
you really, really helped us out a great deal with that book, because when you look, what does it make you think about?
Those listings in there.
When you saw that listing, yeah.
I really didn't know it was in there till you showed it to me. But they must have been awfully open with it. They didn't. They wouldn't let them put that in a book, would they?
When you looked through the list, did it bring back memories?
Oh, sure.
Can you talk about that a little?
I just remembered.
To look at Judy?
Oh, it didn't. Well, it just brought back memories of the different union. I mean, the locals. John was affiliated with a lot of them, I imagine. After that.
So that one thing that you said, just one thing again, is that here in Spartanburg, I guess they didn't have to be frightened at first. They could be public.
Mm-hmm. With the Texas locals listed in the directory, I guess that means that Spartanburg was pretty open about the strikes and the unions.
Well, at the time when they first put this in this book, there was a new law that was set up. The NRA and the New Deal and the illegal, and this came right after all of that.
Yeah.
And those laws said that people had the right to organize and to collective bargaining. So they were doing something that the country they thought was supporting. Well, so is there anything else that you might just want to add?
I wish I had some material that if I ever find any of it, I'll certainly let you know that you might be interested in.
Okay, well, I'd sure appreciate that. You were starting to tell me about your father's activity and what he's told you.
The only impact I think his activity in the union had on me is something he told me. When I first went into the workforce, he says, since I have the same name he had, don't let them know that I'm related to him because of the paranoia he had about getting hired or not hired based on his history in the union. So he said, don't tell them that you're related to me because they won't hire you. That's basically it. He didn't really get into any kind of stories about any of his union activities with me at all. But that one story about just don't tell them you're related to me in any way. You remember something like that. And as you look back at it, now it's like coming in here today talking about it. You realize why. Even though it was real open here in Spartanburg, obviously he still had some paranoia about it.
You never mentioned it?
What?
You never mentioned that you were his son?
No, I never did. Not for that reason. Well, maybe so. Maybe it was that reason. But I never had the opportunity to not mention it.
Could you mention who your daddy? Could you?
Yeah, sure.
Would you mind? You don't mind telling me the story one more time, do you? Okay.
Sorry, one second.
Is that not sitting in? Could you say now? My father, John Pollard, he was an organizer. Just tell me a little bit about that, and then you could go in and tell me that what you
Okay.
didn't know or did know. Or
Can we just check tone for a second?
Speed?
okay, as long as you just refer. You can tell me that story again, but refer to your father, and then when your dad speaks, almost talk to me as if he's talking to
Okay.
you.
Okay. My father, John Pollard, was a union organizer, and one of the stories he told me as I entered the workforce here in Spartanburg was don't mention that you're related to John Pollard, even though I have his same name, because you will not be hired. He said he was just paranoid about that. So and he mentioned it several times. Make sure you don't mention being related to John Pollard. You won't be hired. Said it will get you in trouble. So even though it never really caused me any problems getting hired anywhere, it's something you put in the back of your mind and always kind of take it out and look at it. And that's basically the only impact his affiliation with the labor organizing had any effect on me at all. That's the only thing I remember.
So what do you do now?
I work in textiles. So it's in the blood, I guess.
And what about the union part?
Well, the union part has kind of fizzled away in this area. You don't hear any talk about it at all. At least where I go, you don't. It's satisfy the workers.
They've raised.
You don't want them to have the union.
They make better money, a lot better.
Now, did you ever
I'm
hear?
sorry, can you? I wasn't on her. Can you say that again to
What you telling me about Well, did you know why your husband warned John the way he did?
Because he knew the manufacturers knew him by his activity in the union. He was afraid that they wouldn't hire him.
What did you think about that?
I agreed that he ought not to tell them.
What did you and your husband tell your children and your son John about the union or about his activity in the 1930s?
Just the basic things, like he was president of the union, and he had a big part in the general strike.
You could even talk back and forth to each other a little bit. And could you say the things that I told my children, and then follow up like that?
You talking to him?
Well, I'm talking to you, but you could even ask her. Well, Mama, what did you tell us, or something?
What did he tell you that sunk in your mind? That,
Just basically that one story about don't mention my name. Beware. I remember one thing, a phone call that came in about 1954. You remember one day answering the phone, and it was somebody to do with, he was working for the labor organization at the time, and then he terminated his relationship with them. Someone called him and said something. I was just 4 or 5 years old. And I remember you coming in and said, well, John's not working for the union organizers anymore. Do you remember anything about
That's
that?
been a long time ago.
Yeah. I remember like it was yesterday, the phone ringing in there. Who was it? Do you remember who it was?
I sure don't.
So the only thing that so did you know that your daddy was? Did you know that your father was so active?
No, didn't know that.
Could you tell me that part?
Well, I guess growing up, you get into the playing all the time. You just don't get into the adult side of things. At least I didn't. I didn't realize he was a union organizer up until that phone call, probably, and just barely realized it at that point.
Now that, what did you think about? You could even pick up this book. What did you think about seeing? This is the city phone book.
This is the city directory for Spartanburg County.
Yeah.
1934. Yeah, it's amazing how open it is. Publishing the Times and all. It is amazing.
If you open it to United, that's what your mama was looking at before.
To a U. I can't do it to a U until I have my glasses
If I
on.
take my shoes off, dear,
No.
squeezing my foot. wasn't on it.
To a U. Here we go. United Textile Workers. Yeah. It's amazing. Just like clubs meet at a certain time of day. So this is a rare thing, I understand. Yeah.
I bet you don't see one of it in the directory now. Not that they're not open about it, but I don't think there's that many.
It's not that much activity, I guess.
What do you think? I mean, what is that? Could you take your glasses off? Thanks. What do you think? The impact is of your father just warning you like that and not telling you other stories.
I think he was protecting me, maybe. You know, maybe that's what he was doing, protecting me from that side. I don't know. It had a certain impact on me, but just it makes you curious about it. And to this day, I guess I have not mentioned that I have been related to him. The opportunity has not come up for me to say, I'm John Pollard's son, he was a union organizer. I guess I've been wary of that. Beware.
Is this the first time you've ever said that publicly?
I don't know. Is this public?
Yeah, kinda. Could
Let's
be.
hope so. Yeah, I guess so. It's the first time I've even talked about it aloud. It's just beware. When your father says beware, you beware, I guess.
Do you think you have to be beware?
No, I don't think so.
I'm sorry, could you start that again?
Do you think you have to be frightened?
No, I don't think I'd be frightened at all. Not now. I shouldn't be frightened at all. It's just something he told me to do, and I guess I did it.
You have to be over at 1 or 2.
We've got 15 minutes.
Then where do you have to go?
Work. See the nurse.
Wow. I just can't believe your father, who had such a big presence here in Spartanburg, never told you about that part.
Yeah, I know.
Could you
Interesting.
could you include my question in your answer?
Repeat it.
Yeah, in a way.
Repeat it for me,
We
please.
didn't ask
Oh.
the question, actually.
I'm saying I'm trying to understand, I guess you answered it for me, but here my father was real active, helped organize all these locals, his local Spartan mills all over Spartanburg.
I find it interesting.
One second, just start again.
Sure.
Just checking tape.
Put it in your own words.
Okay,
though.
I find it very interesting that as active as my father was in unions or organizing in the county and wherever, he did not mention this to me. The only mention to me he made was, do not mention my name because of the certain problems you'll have in the workforce here. And that's basically the way I look back and see it. He didn't tell me any stories, maybe so I wouldn't repeat them. But beware, you have my name. But I don't think in this day and time I have to worry about stuff like that. But I work in the mill today.
What do you think is the impact of our parents not telling us the stories?
It's a stopgap in there. Storytelling is a very important thing. I think pass the lineage or whatever on, you've got to tell stories. So this documentary will probably help fill the gap that was left. It's a very important thing to do. Storytelling is very important.
Just what about history? I mean,
Yeah, history itself is a story. And what's the old saying? The country that does not know its history is doomed to repeat it. I guess that goes for people, countries, towns, all kind of different levels. So storytelling is very important.
Just here, I mean, you have more access to this history than almost anyone I've ever met.
This is true. However, the interest doesn't seem to be there for me.
Well, somebody told you not to be interested.
Yeah, probably so. Don't be interested in this.
Could you, the part of that I said, that part of that my sentence that I said before, but here, you know, I mean, and I had more access to most, I don't know, you know, if you want to repeat that, if you could in some way.
Here I am in a place I have access to more history in the textiles in most areas than maybe based on what my father told me or didn't tell me. The interest for me is not in the history of the textiles, it's in other things. It's stay away from this, beware of dog, I don't know.
Thank you so much. Is there anything before we turn everything off that you, are you surprised that we came here?
Well, if you knew my father, no. No, he had a lot of charisma. You expect things like this. You're just a little bit late. You missed him, what, 2 years? How long has he been dead?
3 years.
Very interesting guy. Very interesting guy. Fun guy to be around.
Would your father have talked to us?
Yeah, you couldn't have shut him up. He's a very talkative person, very open person. He would really talk to you.
But if your father had talked to us, then maybe then the Mills would have known who your dad was.
Well, that's okay. At this point in time, I don't think it's important.
So when was it that your father told you?
When I was about 18, 19, I went to work out of high school. And at that point, I went to work for a big mill in town, for Roger Milliken. And he was very specific about me not mentioning his name or me being kin to him at that time. And Roger Milliken is a big, powerful organization here in town, worldwide, I believe. So I said, beware. So I did. I was.
Are you still?
I guess I am. Maybe I won't be after today.
I'm going to ask you this on camera. I mean, we really are going to try to put this on television. So everybody's going to know, but everybody's going to know who your daddy was.
That's fine.
Do you want audio tape? I ran out.
No, I don't care.
Okay.
Let's go for the last minute. Is it okay? Why is today different?
Makes you look at it. You know, face your past. Look at it. Look at yourself in the mirror.
What, do you mean recording with us?
Just bringing it up,
Could you
talking
say
about
that?
it. The presence of you here today makes me look at things that happened in the past. In particular, my father mentioning to me not to mention his name, and you know, I've always wondered why. But today maybe I can say, well, why not? I have nothing to fear. It's just I guess he had so much that I'm not aware of to be aware of that I do not need to be aware of.
Did he have things that you could have been proud of?
Oh, I'm sure, but a lot of the things he did not share with me.
He went to work at the post office, and I guess he's up in his 50s, but he looked all over town for a job and couldn't find one.
Why not?
Why not? Did he couldn't find one? I don't know if the union had anything to do with it or not.
Do you have anything to ask your mama?
No, not that I haven't asked her 1,000 times again.
Do you have anything to ask your daddy?
No, I ask him every day. Stuff, you know. He's here right now, sitting right there, trying to tell me something. Don't beware anymore. Yeah, he's a crazy guy.
This was really nice. Thank you.
Can we? Room tone?